Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Lane?
Yes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Those people joining us virtually, as well as those people that are here tonight. We have some very special guests that are here with us tonight. I'd like to thank everyone for being here with us. Obviously, to all of our staff that's also here tonight, thank you very much for being here. Well, we're going to do a couple things tonight. We're going to start off, first of all, for recognition of the Linus Project participants. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Honeyman.
Thank you, Dr. Selena. I'd like to invite PTA co-presidents Vanessa Laverdier and Kathleen McEnroe up. And while they're joining me, I'd like to ask us to play a short little video montage that we put together. Pay attention to the photos. You might see some familiar faces in the crowd tonight. So a little bit about Project Linus. We started 2 years ago. PTA, actually Vanessa came to me and said, I found this great thing that I think we should try. And we tried it 2 years ago. It was fabulous. This year, we did it again. We did it a little bit differently, but it is a PTA funded event where they buy all the fleece, they come in, they cut it, kind of get it set up in the sizes, and then our folks go to work. It's a K-12 endeavor where everyone in all the schools gets their hands on some part of this. So it really is a full community endeavor, involves everyone in the schools. Our high school kids do the most difficult work. They cut up all the templates. Each one of those templates needs to be kind of fringed and then set up and duplicated so that they're ready to then get sent out to the elementary schools. During Kindness Week, all of the elementary school classrooms hand-tied every one of those blankets that you see in the pictures. And then our middle school kids participated by creating the little tags. And on the backs of those tags, not only did they color and decorate the front, they wrote inspirational messages on the back. And those tags get then pinned to each of the blankets that then get sent out to Project Linus and sent out for homeless children. So they support anyone who's homeless, and it's just a wonderful endeavor that you talk about civics, we talk about giving back, we talk about altruism. It really does all of those things and involves so many people in the district. So the PTA wanted to make sure that we recognized some folks that were really heavily involved in making sure that this endeavor was successful and that it went off without a hitch. We had almost 140 blankets created district-wide. So I'd first like to invite up Mr. Burgoyne as a representative of the high school. He is the liaison to help me get set up with folks here to kind of help out. So he has his own as well as a high school certificate. You're recognized there. We take over library room A in the library, and Miss Vidal is an instrumental part in making sure that we're set up, organized, and she keeps track, come on up, of all of the materials. Everything we need, as well as helping the children or students that come in. that might not be involved. Next, we have middle school, Mr. Menino. He was instrumental in making sure that all of those tags got filled out. And the bulk of the work. Miss Lombardo and her pep classes, those are the students that are responsible for doing citizenship type things. She absolutely crushed it along with her classes, so I'd like to invite Miss Lombardo up. She's going to pull out her first period. We have prep period 1 phenoms. This will go up in your classroom. She's going to call up those students that are here tonight. And our prep period 2 phenom, pep periods, I'm sorry. Like all those signs up, please, by name.
Okay, for first period, we'll start with Michael Kurlowitz O'Leary. Jacob Least. Christiana Pride. Beth Caulfield. Leah Leos. Jessica Nightingale. Last but not least, Taylor Ryan.
And as a result of all this stuff that went on in Kindness Week, we had 3 students over at East Plain. So I want to call Mr. Cocorelli up, East Plain Elementary. You know, Ms. Thurl and Mr. Maizeno couldn't be here tonight, so he's going to accept on all 3 elementary schools on behalf of. But we had 3 students at East Plain Elementary School who were so inspired by the project. You saw them holding the pink blanket with the butterfly, that they decided to go home and make their own blanket and donate it. So they bought their own materials, made it at home, and brought it in a few days after I collected it, but before they came to pick them up. So we would like to invite up Emily Munson. Helena Cornwell. And Rory Gilroy. So I'd like to get a picture with everyone here, but I'd like to thank everyone. This was an outstanding, as you can see, community endeavor. I see a lot of teachers in the audience smiling. They hadn't seen the video yet. We were waiting to show it to the board tonight before we sent it on social media, but another wonderful endeavor.
Thank
And
you.
thank you to the
Thank you for
PTA.
letting it happen. This is great. You know, this is my heart, so.
Yes, so
That's great.
another wonderful endeavor. So let's get the next picture. Everybody stand right here. You guys can see the camera, they can see you. Come on, adult friends. You all have certificates. Lord, come on. Anyone?
Don't go anywhere. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you, Harvard. Thank you very much. When you need advice. No, it's not gonna happen.
Nah.
We have some more recognition today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to our athletic director for health, physical education, and interscholastic sports. We're doing here by Mr. TJ Burke tonight. So Mr. Burke, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Slater. Hello, to the board here. Good evening. Good evening to everyone else that is here. We recognize some athletes 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
Feels longer, for 2 weeks ago, and it's really an honor to bring up student athletes that come up. We always talk about our student athletes, but next one I'm gonna pass over to Coach, and Coach will bring Lucy Younghands up, but Lucy Younghands has been a joy to watch my 3 years here. My first year, Coach can talk a little bit more. My first year as this young and upcoming athlete, high school athlete, helped win the county championship. First time since 1987, I remember, right? She was a pivotal part of that and a pivotal part of the team last year and this year. So she won a special award. I'm gonna have Coach announce it, but the offense, defense, she was the main person on the court that the other team was always afraid of and going after, so they had to shut down. So Coach Sarah Tanzi, I'm gonna have her come up and introduce Lucy and explain her award and a few more things that about Lucy. Thanks, Coach.
Good evening. Thank you to the board, Dr. Selena, for taking time to recognize Lucy. I've had the pleasure of coaching Lucy since really she was in 8th grade, and she really is just in a class of her own. Like Mr. Berg said, she came up on varsity as a sophomore, and she was a key component to helping us win our county championship that year. And from there, she's really just flourished into a role on the court and also as a leader for all the student athletes in the program. This year in particular, Lucy led our conference in scoring. She also was in the top 10 in the county in scoring, which is very difficult, especially because she was defended by multiple people at times, so it's very impressive. And she was named All-County this year, but also Defensive Player of the Year as well. And for me, it's just been a true pleasure to watch her step into the role this year as a senior leader, and she's the reason why we've been so successful this year, and we wish you nothing but the best, and I will miss you greatly, but congratulations on an amazing career here, not just season. We're really proud of you, so.
Yes.
Wait, we'll do you guys first. Then.
Over here?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll call it.
Someone behind her.
I'll wait till you're done.
Yep. She's moving her soccer career on to Sacred Heart.
Nice.
Oh.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Couple other short announcements. Planners Middle School Drama Club proudly presents Matilda Junior, the musical on Friday, March 22nd, 7 p.m. Saturday, March 23rd, 2 and 7 p.m. Secure your tickets now by visiting the middle school website or pmsdrama.booktix.net or the district website for more info. Planners Public Schools is proud to announce that we are hosting the Spring Special Olympics New York Games on May 4th, 2024. Please visit our website for information regarding volunteer opportunities. To run an operation of this size, in order to accommodate this for the state, it's going to require at least 600 volunteers. So we're looking for people to support us, and obviously this event. The Stars in Richmond Academy registration is now open now. The district website to learn more about the Incredible Star program. This week on the 21st is Down Syndrome Celebration Day. To celebrate today, we're asking everyone to please wear their crazy socks. Congratulations to our Special Olympic Art Contest winners. These students' designs will be showcased on our Special Olympics Athletes, Games Committee, and volunteer t-shirts, as well as displayed on the day of the event program. Congratulations to Joelle Diaca, Elizabetta Ladisa, Gianna Marotta, and Ashley Coogan. We are extremely excited for the May 4th event. Congratulations to Ms. Chiolo for being highlighted in the Super Forensics Spring Science newsletter for all her hard work organizing the CSI competitions for her students and those people in surrounding districts, and her dedication to teaching forensics. Our high school forensic competition will take place this year on March 26th at our Brian Moore Center. On March 14th, this one I'm still in disbelief. The Math Honor Society hosts its annual "How many digits of pi can you actually memorize" competition. So how good your memory is really the question. Congratulations to Noah Garcia for memorizing 227 digits. So I was like, whoa. And to speak about the Linus Project, 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, right? When we first started that project, to see how an impact, someone actually took a picture that got off as Penn Station or Port Authority, one of the blankets that we actually made, that our kids made, actually was on the back of someone that, was, really in need of support at that time, and they had one of our blankets there. So it always makes me so proud to see the collaborative efforts between all of our families through the PTAs, our administration, our teachers, and the children who actively participate in these things. It goes to a worthwhile cause. People are constantly, I commend all of you for your hard work and for looking to give back to those people that are in need always. It's very important to be kind first. So thank you very much to that. That concludes my announcements for tonight. For our younger students that are here tonight, if your families need to take you home at this point in time, we're going to move into the business section. So you're welcome to stay as long as you like. But a lot of times people say, is like, do I have to stay? You have homework and showers and all those other good things to do. So I imagine your parents want to take you out of here, but you're welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting. And I want to thank all of you for being here tonight and participating in our meeting. Thank you very much. I turn it back to the board president at this point.
Routine approvals, approval of the minutes of the March 5th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 5th, 2024 board meeting? Mrs. Maggio? Second? Mr. Paris, all in favor?
Okay, 5 in favor, motion passed.
Approval of the minutes of the March 7th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 7th, 2024 board meeting? Mr. Bayroudi, second? Ms. Townsend, all in favor? And opposed? Abstaining, Mr. Paris.
Okay. Four in favor, 1 abstaining, motion passed.
Okay, we have the discussions and presentations portion of the meeting. We have the 4th draft of the 2024-2025 budget presented by Peter Perez.
Thank you, Dr. Nady. Okay, with tonight's presentation, we'll be closing out the month of March presentations. Dr. LaValliant will be presenting the staffing and enrollment budget. And we move on to April. April 11th is the next meeting date where we have several presentations. Dr. Selena will present the capital projects planning update and capital propositions. I will present the fund balance and reserve plan as well as the revenue projections. And we are scheduled for deliberations and hopefully budget adoption on April 11th, which brings us into the whole home stretch of this whole process with a budget vote on May 21st. If you recall, when we met back in January, we presented our rollover budget, which came out to almost $106 million, 4.7% increase over the prior year. When we met in February 6th, the second draft of the budget was presented, and we had successfully reduced the budget by $564,000. We met it once again on March 5th, where we had reduced the budget by $717,000, which brought us to a 3.43% increase year over year. And with this presentation of the budget, we reduced the budget by $258,000. We're down to 3.18% year over year increase. As you know, there are many inflationary pressures within this budget. Actual inflation had been about 8% this year. And we're trying our best to reduce the budget and keep it in line as best we can.
Questions from the board at this time? Thank you.
Staffing and Dr. LaValliere.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Good evening. It was a pleasure to present. So staffing in the room for 24-25. The overall net changes. So very minor fluctuation in our elementary. The 2 teaching assistants are due to a 12-1-2 program that's being offered at Schwarting. And in secondary, we have some minor increases, mainly driven by a new computer science program that we're very excited about offering here. That's an increase in special ed and some PE health offerings this year. And those are the main drivers behind the secondary changes. Elementary staffing projections. Here are the projections for each school. These are the elementary staffing projections. And middle school and high school. Again, minor changes here. Again, the main drivers here, as you can see, is technology and career development for the new computer science program, special education, and some PE and health, other than minor changes that we always experience in other areas. Questions?
Questions from the Board of Education at this time?
Did we add in the civics course or that was already in?
All courses are, well, first of all, we have to have,
I know we have to have computer science.
we have to have the enrollment, so, okay.
So it's not a civics course. We're working for next year to go for the seal of civic readiness,
Mhm.
which will be a combination of things that we're working on in my department with our curriculum associates and then the building administrators. So it's not a course.
Yeah, wasn't adding any course.
The
Okay.
courses that we are is the computer science, as Dr. LaValliere stated, and we had shared at our presentation of the new requirements from New York State Ed. So that's what we're developing.
Right. And that's the pre-K to 12 from the state.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, business, do I have a motion to accept business items 4? No. I mean, 6 through 16. 1 through 4. 1 through 4. Oh, I didn't see the 1, I didn't see the 4. We knew we were gonna screw that one up. 1 through 4 and 6 through 16. Do I have a motion? Ms. Townsend, second? Mr. Bayrudi, all in favor? Opposed?
Okay,
Abstained.
5 in favor, motion passed.
Okay, and then we're repeating, do I have a motion to accept business item number 5? Ms. Townsend, second? Mr. Paris, all in favor? Opposed? Abstain.
Okay, no, so 4 in favor, 1 opposed, motion passed.
And now we're moving into Pride and Plain Edge. This is the opportunity for the board members to present on attendance or participation at school or community events. I know we had a lot of events the last 2 meetings, so we may not want to repeat it, but if anyone has anything they had attended between last meeting and now? Anyone? Okay. All right, new business, school. Oh, Mrs. Maggio?
I'm sorry. I was going back and looking at our agenda and I wasn't paying attention.
Sorry.
So I want to apologize. First, I would like to say thank you to the East Plain PTA who did a fabulous job with the Wingo night, which seems to be predominantly women. And then I know that a group of men went out and that seemed to be an exciting night for Plain Edge community too. So I thought that was a great you know, I've been in education quite some time and I've never seen a male dominated PTA. So it's fun to see the changes in which they are, the changes they're making. And I think it's really, I mean, little changes, you could see it's for the kids, but it was fun to have a guys' night out. And then I would like to speak and share with you that I went to a very important rally in Hauppauge this weekend. And I was in awe of how many plain edge teachers were there. Our PFT was just so well supported there, and I just wanted to thank them. The purpose of this rally was to advocate for a restoration of foundation aid. For those who are unaware, our governor cut millions upon millions in foundation aid for public schools in her version of the state's budget. Although Plain Edge is only scheduled to lose about 1% of its previous state aid, many districts around Long Island are losing much more funding, resulting in the loss of teaching positions and programs that we all know benefit children. The school district where I work, Long Beach Public Schools, is scheduled to lose around 22% of their foundation aid funding, which equates to over $4 million. So of course, I had to go, and I had the pleasure of participating in this rally and was so delighted to see so many Plain Edge teachers there for children all over Long Island. Because as I just said, Plain Edge isn't due to lose like so many other districts are. The rally was organized by NICET, our teachers union, and the parent union of PFT, and all other teacher unions from they represent all of other teachers unions across New York State. In attendance with many local politicians, such as Assemblyman John Micklin and our state senator, Alexis Week. The event was also covered on News 12, and there were so many educators, union members, parents, politicians, lots of politicians of both sides of the aisle. Children letting our governor know that we will not stand for unnecessary cuts in public education funding. Our children in New York State, and especially here in Plain Edge, deserve better. As an educator myself, I know how hard it is to work the whole week with students and then go home and take care of your own family. And the last thing you wanted to do on a Saturday morning was wake up and go out to Hoppa. But Plain Edge, it did exactly that in numbers. So thank you to the many Plain Edge teachers, some of whom traveled all the way from Western Nassau County, Queens, to participate in such an important event. It made me so proud to be a leader in this community where our teachers are not just educating children, but advocating for the changes that benefit students at all levels across all of New York State. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So what Jen was saying, I actually attended the East Plain PTA Dad's Night Out. It was a great event. Hopefully they raised a lot of money. And I'm hoping that John H. West and Schwarting copy so we can have 2 more nights of craziness. And also do some good at the same time. I think the other thing that Jen mentioned also is important, obviously, the cuts to schools through foundational aid. Hopefully that does get restored through the actions of, the unions, and hopefully the governor also realizes the immensely negative impact this will have on schools. So hopefully that advocacy works out and we don't have to make difficult decisions. That was something I was concerned with, at the beginning of the year, seeing the governor's budget. So hopefully with the politicking that Dr. Selena had mentioned in prior meetings, that gets restored.
Let's hope.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I think, politically is, fueled by a lot of propaganda where they always go for, the most vulnerable, which are the schools, when, in a week or 2 from now, she'll come out and say that it's something completely different and, oh, we found the money. And I am very proud of the unions for coming out and supporting in terms of that, because I think at this point in education, we shouldn't have to be rallying that. It doesn't even make any sense that we can't get exactly what we need for all school districts. It's very important because, education for children, that's something that has to be on the forefront. It can't just be put to the side, or, well, we'll look again in a week and see if we can give you a few more pennies. We need more than pennies to, continue the function and to do it properly too. So thank you, PFT, and thank you for attending. And also Wingo, thank you for that, because that's fun. Okay, new business, we have, school security, we'll have a discussion, was brought up by one of our members, to, have this open discussion, so we waited until tonight, so, Mr. Bayruti, do you want to speak about that?
Yeah, sure. So this topic came to mind, as some may know, board members will attend a convention in Buffalo for Board of Ed members. And so I attended, I think it was in October. It was kind of a while ago. One of the breakout sessions they had to do with active shooting situations in schools. And, you know, it made an impact on me. Particularly there was a video there, and it, you know, whatever the politics of the organization is, it did affect me, and it's, Sandy Hook's Promise. That's the organization, I believe. I forget the title of the video, unfortunately, I forgot to write it down, but it's like the day after tomorrow, where it's, effectively, everyone the day before a school shooting, expressing what they wish they could have done or said the day before it actually happened. And it really affected me. So right from the start, I'm obviously very engaged into what the speaker was going to talk about. And the gentleman who presented, and again, around that time, just to kind of set the tone, I think it was the Maine shooting where 25 people were shot. So the main presenter actually was in Maine, you know, helping, I guess, the FBI and CIA. But the person who was actually presenting was former military, Syracuse SWAT, and now he works for this company called Armored One. And a lot of the stuff that they talked about in terms of hardening securities at schools, I think thankfully we actually have here in Plainage, or it's probably going to be rolled out. Not trying to give away secrets, because obviously you don't want to do that, but it was heartening to hear that we have a lot of that stuff already in place. So I was very pleased about that. The one thing I would say, is probably the biggest hole, which we're starting to see more school districts on Long Island push out, is armed security. And I know that's kind of a third rail political item, but, you know, when someone asked about that during the Q&A session, the gentleman at the top, he gave his pros and cons for it and against it. But he summarized it by saying, I'd rather have it than not. So that obviously left an impression on me. And the goal of me raising this, especially seeing that, you know, surrounding districts directly adjacent to Plain Edge, have approved this, such as Farmingdale, as far as I can tell, is to have that conversation, and see if this is something that we should obviously solicit community input from staff, administration, et cetera, but start the process of actually investigating whether this is something that we should bring here at Plain Edge to harden our resources. I mean, with 4 kids in the school, next year I'll have 5 kids in this district. You know, my most precious resource is my kids. And so, you know, I think we do a very good job trying to ensure their safety, but I always like to think what can we be doing better? You know, being great is always a good thing, but I also think we should strive for, you know, making sure that we've dotted every I, crossed every T, and really harden our defenses as hard as possible to make sure that our children are safe. So I want to have the conversation, whether it goes forward or it doesn't. You know, I think that's for kind of community input, and you know, that my goal is to just at least have that conversation and start the process to do that.
So. Do you want to speak?
Dr.
Okay.
Selena?
Get a little background here. So I want to start making clear that I'm advocating for or against armed guards in public schools, specifically Plain Edge, and stop at no expense and level effort or any measure that would protect every one of our children and staff members. The Board of Education took an active role to improve school security in the Plain Edge public schools over a decade ago with the support of our families through our budgets. The board recognized that in order to continue to improve security in our schools, an annual commitment is necessary, and created a reserve designed to fund annual improvements centering around school security here. They advocated for implementation of many measures designed to increase safety in the schools, including security vestibules in the front of all of our schools, the hiring of security officers, many of them retired police officers or law enforcement or military, door access, video monitoring, one button lockdown system. We hired a security director, Mr. Tom DiRispino, a retired lieutenant at NYPD, who does an outstanding job. We work collaboratively with our Nassau County POP officers, as well as Homeland Security of Nassau County Police Department and Commissioner Ryder, to best prepare for events involving potential threats and violence in the schools. The district administration, has spoken at local and national levels and appeared on school TVs about active shooter incidents and the state-of-the-art technology systems that are installed here that we continue to improve, as was alluded to earlier. We're known as the people that really put the one button lockdown on the maps nationally. And the one button lockdown came from a vision that I had as a principal about all the things that I need to do and all the people that I have to contact, and at the same time be sure that everybody was okay inside the buildings. So we automated that process through flow charts and basically programming. And the Plain Edge administration and board trustees also have been involved with professional development training sessions, similar to what you heard earlier, by participating at conferences on the national level as well as the local level. We've always looked to law enforcement as our experts in safety to advise us on measures they believe will improve school security right here in Plain Edge. All right, so when I speak to the commissioner, and the commissioner holds regular meetings in the county with superintendents and basically talks about what they're working on today. And the other thing that I want to bring up, and is important to note, is that as you may recall, 2 separate active shooter incidents, they have gained national attention, had armed law enforcement people at the school at the time, Columbine and Parkland, which are the 2 most famous. Obviously the ones that are closer to us, Connecticut and such, there have definitely been a lot of talk about them as well. Any loss is unacceptable. Since the 2 tragic events occurred, many things have changed in the law enforcement world, specifically here in Nassau County. I've had a chance to speak to one of their retired chiefs, as well as Commissioner Ryder. And I told you he has security briefings for superintendents on a regular basis. They evolved, right? They changed. Instead of the old days when police officers used to come to the schools and wait outside for the SWAT team or the special force to arrive in order to go into the building, they basically retooled, and they basically used data to understand that the method by which they were originally proceeding was not the most appropriate, expecting active shooters, because active shooters, we need to enter the building immediately. They're now committed, and they have been, and we constantly having discussions about what they're going to do and what they're going to be with us. And they deploy necessarily the people that we need in order, and they have the appropriate weaponry. The reality is a person with a single handgun against a person that's using a semi-automatic rifle. Commissioner even said, he goes, think about, the difference inside the artillery that these people are using. The trainers and the members of the NCAA have evolved in response to the active shooter incidents in the USA today, not just here, but throughout the country. The district takes all threats seriously and has implemented protocols to deal with threats made in the schools. It's usually by someone that we know, all right? It's someone that has been involved. So what we do is we use a very proactive approach. All right, children are learning to cope with their emotions and new stressors, including social and educational pressures. So warning signs and adult behavioral threat assessment, apparent impulsivity or low tolerance frustration visits can be very common in K-12 students. Realizing that mental health was so important early on, the board realized when it was brought to the opportunity for us to engage with the Northwell program, we brought on a number of new people, included staff members that are on our staff full-time, as well as those individuals that support our mental health division, and they support our families, their families, and even staff when they need it. So we're proactively engaging with those people that we believe are high risk or in crises at the time, and hopefully looking to help them understand there are different ways. We also added additional psychologists to manage the increased need for support services. Our character educations, we speak to children about appropriate behaviors when faced with challenging situations, what you could do or who you can speak to if you're not happy. We're identifying all children at risk, all right, with our staff members inside of our classrooms. They are the professionals that deal with our students on a regular basis. And I do want to reiterate that I'm not advocating for or against, but I think it's important to understand the history that's been here. We're talking over a decade of what's going on. And over the years, the topic of armed security was spoken about here in this room by board meetings. There are still no recommendations or guidelines that we see from any local, state, or federal agency advising us that we should have armed security on the premises, near the premises, or in the schools. The data available to date related to active shooter incidents is yet to support the introduction of armed security in schools, and that the most important part about that is it will lead to reduction of people injured or loss of life. There are no guarantees in life, as you all know. When it comes to use of armed security, I know the board stopped nothing to protect our children, so I think it's obviously an appropriate discussion and people should weigh in on it. Thank you.
Ms. Townsend?
So Dr. Selena brought up all the points that I wanted us to review as well, because I feel like those are all the snapshots of all the things that we have done in the decade. Like when we, at one point, there were so many things we were engaged in. Even when we looked into putting the mechanisms, the protective shields, or any type of security measures, we as a board went to each building and looked at the plan, like the plans, and then we visualized in the building as we toured it what would happen. I mean, we were a very involved board. No matter what our political affiliations were, our own opinions about pro or against having armed security, we made sure that we reflected what would work for Plainage. We also understood, like you said, about the mental health. That was huge, because we recognized that a lot of these cases were tied into it. I don't want to say all shooters, have that, but we recognize that if these are things that are problematic, and if and our teachers are wonderful, our psychologists are wonderful, we've brought in Northwell, we've engaged in conversations, and then had more involvement where our school experts are engaged with the students and getting that one-on-one, trying to assess the situation and being proactive. I also think that when we were touring, we also recognized that, especially for elementary buildings, we didn't necessarily want it to look like Alcatraz. We didn't want the impression, we still wanted that environment where it's about nurturing, about learning, and instilling, like when you were talking about character education, I mean, we've had that forever, beyond, before all these newsworthy things that trigger people. And I use the word trigger because it honestly is about whether or not we are pro arms or against it. But when we look at what is the root of the problem, it's about education. This is why we have been really successful in Plainage. Education, is that it's not just a buzzword. We truly believe in education, and we believe that if we educate our population and beyond. I mean, look at when you were saying before at the rally, right? Our Plainage teachers are involved, and meanwhile, our district is fiscally responsible and healthy, and yet our teacher body still is engaged in not just Long Island, but as New York State as a whole. We care. And that's why we always talked about the heart of Plainage. Why we even named our 5K about heart of Plainage, because it's our very heart that reaches, it's got a lot of tentacles in a good way, where we really reach out and try to help others and to network and build a stronger educational environment. So in terms of, pro arms or against arms, I think we also have to for me personally, I probably could see both sides of it, but I just want to know, at what point are we going to instill, okay, sorry if I'm all over the place, but we also embrace law enforcement. How many times throughout the years we bring law enforcement into these buildings, and our students from a very young age have learned how we value, how we respect law enforcement. So it's about educating our children, the student body, to respect the law. And And if we keep doing these things, and these are the characteristics, like citizenship, loyalty, like, these are the values that if we are instilling, if it's at home, we're reinforcing it here. If it's not at home, we're hoping to provide that situation for stability for all these young minds. I mean, I feel like when we started this dialogue 10 years ago, a decade ago, I feel that we have done so many wonderful things. I'm not just patting ourselves on the back. I mean, truly, we are educated, we read all the material, we read all the documents, we educate ourselves, we also read all kinds of information. And I really believe that we put things in place so that we prevent these tragedies from happening. I mean, no one wants that to happen in any of our buildings. And we completely feel compassionate when we see it in the news. But
I think it's important to recognize though, CC, that we're talking 9 districts out of 122 on Long Island today have some type or form of armed security that on the premises, off the premises, or in the schools. So you're talking about a very small percentage of districts migrating in that direction at this point in time, percentage-wise. Not that that influences a person's opinion, but the idea behind it though is that because there's still question about, what is the validity of this? What is the possibilities? Is there any guarantees from this? So it's an open discussion, like I said before, and I can respect anyone's opinion on this topic. But I think that, like you shared before, a lot of the measures that we put in place, we're constantly assessing, is there something out there that we could do better? And we want to consider those things. I mean, that's why we're here. We don't want to see anyone ever get hurt.
right. Well, I will just say, like Dr. Selena, if we look at the possibility of putting armed security, then, you could argue both sides. There's good and bad. And so one of the things that I have to look at it is the liability on our school district. What if something happened accidentally that, because there was a presence of a gun that we authorized to be on our premises? I'm just,
That's why I think you see a couple of the models out there being spinning around right now because they don't want that liability. But like I said before, all good points.
Like you had mentioned Farmingdale. Like the news loves to spin things around because Farmingdale is not a armed officer in the school. It's around the area. So that, like the first second it was posted on News 12 and the first second it went out to the parents, unless you read what went out to parents, you didn't get to, oh, they're not coming in the building to like the 5th paragraph. So like everybody's trying to spin things all the time, which is so frustrating to me. But also you spoke about liability. Look at what happened at Eastport South Manor, where there was a police, an armed security, and he goes to the bathroom and he left the gun in the bathroom. God forbid a child went and found that gun. Like this is, and again, I have so much to say, but just my brain's right there.
Yes,
Like
yes.
the liability, CC, is something. The liability on me, God forbid a child ever found that gun. Like at Eastport South Manor, that happened. Like recently, within the year, I believe, a couple months ago even.
Board member.
Right, but it wasn't his security. You're right, he was a board member, but he's a security
involved.
officer somewhere.
He is.
You're
He had the
right.
right to carry. He had the right to carry.
That's probably why I was scared.
He wasn't carrying illegally.
No, you're right. I mean,
it's
this
good these
is
board
real.
members don't carry. But
He was law enforcement, retired.
Yes, you're right. You're right. You're right.
I don't know.
Mr. Bass?
So I don't know if there's a right or wrong to the answer. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did attend at the national convention this year, down in Orlando, a Homeland Security half-day seminar on armed guards in the schools. Dr. Selena did attend it with me. And they said they have no data to support armed guards as a deterrent or even a fast reaction. And they gave the latest one was Uvalde, Texas, that had their own police force in the school district and it was ineffective. But they did say after the meeting, we spoke to the two Homeland Security people and we told them we would, we might be interested in putting guards at our buildings. And when they heard we were in Nassau County, they said you are in one of the fastest response and most well-trained areas in the country. They will never say, yes, put them in or don't, because they don't want that liability. But we felt coming out of that meeting, they really were not. Well, they definitely said in the seminar, they don't believe you should put an armed guard in the school. They gave an example of somewhere there was a armed guard in the high school. There was a fight between two kids. He went and got involved and they tried to get his gun. So they don't suggest you put an armed guard in the school. But they didn't want to say you shouldn't put one anywhere around the building. They didn't want to go that way. So just, that was something they talked about. And when we talked to them after the meeting, when they heard we were from Nassau County, they said, you really have the best response time, probably one of the most well-trained police forces in that area in the country.
And I think another thing that's very important is, people that are involved with running a building, principals, assistant principals, the deans, or everyone that's involved, the security and the 5D, the model for securing your building every day. I mean, you need to be a visible presence. You need to know all those nooks and crannies in the building so that when you're doing a walkthrough, that there is safety. You don't want the door to be, left ajar, which is really why a lot of the school shootings, people were able to get in. A lot of times kids might even go to the door, oh, I'm gonna let you come in. They do that automatically. They might think they know you. Because, again, the school shootings, if you look at the research, you look at the history, it is not the stranger. It's somebody that you know. It's that person. Look at Columbine, you can look at Sandy Hook. They knew these people. That person was not going to be possibly taken off school grounds because they were already close enough. They kind of had like a mental picture of the inside of the building. You got to know your building. You got to go around and do a walkthrough, perimeter walkthrough every day. All the principals should do that in all elementary schools.
If I could make a comment, I also want, this is not something that we typically share, but Homeland Security and POP officers are here for our lockdowns. They do a threat assessment and needs assessment and walk through basically with, and they have a checklist. And at the end of this process, they basically offer us suggestions that we bring back and we discuss amongst ourselves and decide, is this something that, we think we should put in place? We obviously follow their recommendations. We're not police officers or people that are involved in Homeland Security or basically defending schools. So anything that they say, we obviously take very seriously. And if it's something we can do, a lot of times, over the years, I've seen that evolve, very minor adjustments these days, but they're always offering things that they see in order for us to understand ways that we can improve, be proactive inside of our, our lockdowns or even our school security on the outside. We've changed windows, we've changed doors. Obviously, visibility is important.
And all the, the personnel want to know the protocols to be safe. And that's like an ongoing thing every day that can be done. Let's say, someday we do have armed security, but right now, today, we don't. So what are we doing instead of that at this point today? And we have to have a high awareness, when they say something, say something. We really have to do that. Don't leave the door open. No, mom, you can't come in. My brother-in-law had to bring my son a $20 bill. And this was before we had security. And it was the PTA moms that were in the front that were saying, no, you're not coming in. I don't know who you are. And they didn't let him come in. And it was good. And he was all mad. Oh, it didn't let me in. I said, no, because you really have no right being there. You just had to come up like in a jiffy to give him $20, but they didn't allow you in. You wanted to like go in and see him and you cannot. So that's something that I think is very important too, that just because we know you, I can't open the door and let you in. And you have to be very strong in that too.
So Joe, I want you to know that I care about your children just like I care about all the children in this district. I understand it. And besides board member, I think it's always worthwhile. The interest in it is real. I just feel like we should always consider it and reevaluate it, just because this is something that we started 10 years ago, and we have been aware and cognizant of it because we put different measures. I know you just came on, but I know that you're aware of the things we've done in history because it's something that we constantly put out there. I mean, I would be interested to see, because as far as I'm concerned, this community is very divided. Even though there are some outspoken about putting armed guards, there's a lot of people in this community that don't want it.
Yeah.
Because I, for one, am for the Second Amendment, and during these discussions we had in the past, there were a lot of community members that expressed that they did not want armed security.
I mean, so, you know, I can appreciate all the points everyone made, you know, and, you know, I think to address some of them, I think with respect to law enforcement appreciation day, I think if students see a police officer, they're not scared, right? Because they've been exposed to it. Regarding Farmingdale and their rollout, I was aware that they kept the security guards on the outside. I'm sure there's reasons for it. You know, so I think each of these points, they're all well made, and there are other points that can be discussed. And my point is, yeah, this is a dividing issue, but we're board members, we're leaders, we're elected as leaders of the community. Sometimes you have to make decisions that aren't going to make everyone happy. But, and my point to that would be, we're not going to have an answer on this today, which is why I would suggest that we form a committee similar to maybe something that Farmingdale did. And I didn't really go into reading exactly what they did, but I think they had a group of people, a variety of stakeholders that came together. They had a formal committee. They did studies. You know, NISBA, they put out a publication, if a tear sheet, I'll call it, where they talked about the pros and cons. And it seemed like the way I read it, based on my interpretation, they were more on the pro side, based on this tear sheet. There might be other publications that they put out where it's not, right? So there's a lot of different points of views in terms of like what can work and what can't. Like I said, I don't think we're gonna solve it. I mean, you know, even as a board member, if I walk through Plainedge Middle School, right, and try to figure out what the weaknesses are, I mean, it doesn't make sense for me because I'm an accountant. I'm not a professional security person that can assess threats and things like that. I appreciate what we've done, but I also know that based on, again, it was just a session that I went to at Buffalo for board members. This is something that someone who is in that field, and again, Syracuse is completely different than Plainedge, right? It's a big city, big school district, a lot of different pressures compared to Plainedge, where this individual works. But I'm not saying that we're making the decision today. My hope or goal is that as board members, we can agree to maybe study what other districts did when they examined this, and we proceed in the same fashion that we think makes sense for Plainedge. Whether it's setting up a committee of 2 teachers, 2 board members, 2 administrators, you know, 2 or 4 parents, whatever it is, that we set up a committee, we study it, we come back, report the findings, however this stuff works. Because again, I'm brand new, like you said, Sissy, I don't know how this stuff works, but we go through the proper process and channels to study this. And then at the end, we make a determination like, is this right or is this not right for Plainedge? And then at least everyone feels comfortable that we did this study in a forthright fashion and people can be comfortable with it. And if it ends up that we have armed security, half the people are going to be pissed off anyway. And if we don't, the other half's going to be pissed off. But at least we put forth our best effort to try to address this in a systematic fashion. And that's really what my hope is. So that's kind of what I'm proposing to the board. I wasn't looking for a solution today. My goal is whatever the right process is. I don't know if it's a motion or whatever, but something to move this into an area where it can be studied, whether it's a committee or forming a committee to do that. That's what I'm hoping to do.
Well, yeah, so a couple comments. So first of all, and good points. I think that, you know, one of the things that you said, which really rung true, is that, you know, we're not qualified. We're not qualified to do this. You know, I mean, this is not something that, you know, happens from a group of people that gather together, although we do have people that are here, over 240 that are in law enforcement. I'm sure they would be possibly interested, you know. It would be something that, you know, if the board would to look at anything, I would really suggest you need to find someone who's a security expert that basically can come in as a consultant service and to explore what that process might look like as far as soliciting information from people. But at this point in time, that's up to the board to decide. putting together a group of people and trying to decide whether people should carry guns in the schools, outside the schools, in the front office, or, arming somebody in a neighborhood sitting in a car waiting for an alarm to go off to come on in. I don't think that any of us are qualified to do that, and I would not want to be a person that, voted, yes, we should definitely do this because something I read. I don't have the experience in law enforcement nor in security or any type of military action. So it's not something that I would feel comfortable with getting a group of people together and having a discussion about, and then trying to decide what's going to be for the good of the community of Plain Edge. So that's not something that, I think that, obviously the board needs to kind of hash that out themselves and talk about it. I think it's something that maybe you should look to explore further. Obviously, it's something that we can bring back. If the board wills it, the board has to make that decision though. Remember, I work at the directive of the board.
Yeah, I think we had an open discussion and a lot of points were brought up, but again, I don't think it can be solved overnight. And I do think that the safety and the security of the children and the staff are, obviously paramount every day. And we do have things in place. So, tomorrow morning, we don't have to get up and be worried about that. And I do think that what was brought up tonight, I think we sort of have to kind of, bring it to another level where we can have more information, from the real experts. Because, police officers don't like us to interfere with their business and with their work because that's very specified work. And, again, we're not officers and we're not really equipped to do that heavy duty type of work. So if everyone agrees, I think we should, table this discussion and move it forward for, next board meeting or, have that further discussion.
Yeah.
Linda, do you mind if I attended a virtual? I was not at the conference, but on active shooters and stuff. And I guess everybody knows I work in another school that does not have anything, and many schools don't. Like, one big thing they said was, do not have your fine motor working in situations like that. Go to a card. And I've had this card since I started on the board. How many years is that? 8 years? I mean, that's been in place. Another thing that they said was the one button lockdown, obviously, and the vestibules and stuff, but also every time, every one of them, they've missed signs of the kid. They missed it in school. They passed it along. And it's so important that we're doing the work that we're doing to make sure that we don't miss it in children. And I think you take a very strong line on that, Dr. Selena. I mean, I know what would happen in some districts with children, and it's serious here when children, and I thank you for that. And these are babies, so it's hard to say to a baby, you have to be suspended, or I do not, but
Historically, infractions happen usually during the lunch periods where there's some type of altercation, and then the last lunch period. And then you might hear about it as the principal at 3 o'clock when you're getting ready to go. So the job again is to make sure that you heard something, you cannot let it go. Even if it's the silliest thing, you want to investigate it. That's very, very important. We can't just let everybody walk out at 3:10 and say, okay, if there was a threat, if you heard anything or you think anything, which I know that everyone here would take that seriously, even if it happens on a Friday at 3 o'clock, that, because again, it is the internal threat. It is that entity. It's not an outside entity. And if you look at all the research, it moves to that. So we really do have to be aware of it as well.
Yeah.
So what are we agreeing to do tonight? We will.
I guess I can gather some more information for the board to take a look at about process, if that's something the board chooses to. There's no real decision that's required tonight.
And suggestion, could we engage our director of security? He's really connected with the security world. With police departments, other security agencies, maybe he's someone we should engage in this.
Okay. I'll find some more information out and I'll bring it back.
Okay.
Okay.
And how many?
Timeline will be
How
just
many school districts are actually having armed?
9 right
Yeah,
now.
9.
There's
Oh,
9 out of
the whole
122,
state.
not in the state, just in Nassau and
Just
Suffolk
the
counties.
Nassau.
So it's not, it's not an overwhelming, number.
And that's 9 in various forms, but everybody says armed security, right?
They do.
So that could be outside, it could be inside, like, okay.
That's
Are
fine.
those 9 large school districts?
I think, well, one is
No.
South Huntington.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
Some of them are.
yeah,
Some
they're
of them
not.
are.
they're
Sachem
not-
is huge. Sachem's,
Sachem is
Sachem's in there. I can give you the list. I have the list on my desk. But it's,
Some of them function with like a 7 to 12 campus, so it depends on like the acreage. You could be on, 15 acres of land, and so the 7th grade might be in one area where the 12th grade could be in the other area, so.
I'll get information for everybody, okay? And we'll bring this back. It's, right now, we're engaged in the budget. I don't think it's gonna impact. We're not gonna make any decision, but for this budget process at this point in time, I will bring it back to the board sometime in May. So you have the information. I'm gonna do some research if the board directs me to do so. And then I'll bring back and kind of see what people did. And I'll also see, what the recommendation is from, Director of Security, as well as his resources over at NCPD, if we wanted to do some type of, programmatic study, et cetera. So we can take a look at it, and we get more information, and then, of course, the board can continue to discuss this, if that's what the board wills.
Right?
We
Yes,
have to vote on, or?
No,
I mean,
no action required.
no,
I think they were.
all right,
Everybody good with that?
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, old business, there is no old business. And now opportunity for public comment. All comments are directed to the Board of Education president. Each speaker is limited to 2 minutes in total, and each speaker is expected to use the microphone and clearly state their name.
Hello, Joe Garcia. How are you? So I could give you a little background on how Farmingdale did their process as far as armed security. I'd like to do that for the next 98 seconds or so. They started with a school survey, went out to all the parents in the district. The school survey was sort of the first way that the board, many of whom weren't all that in favor of it at the time, took the pulse of the community, came back about 80% in favor of some form of armed security. After that, a committee was formed with especially staff, teachers, security staff, parents, and even high school students who were identified as leaders in the high school. They made a committee. That committee studied recommendations. They worked with their POP officers and local law enforcement. They came out with recommendations. Those recommendations were brought to the board. The board discussed them in a special meeting, and then eventually those recommendations were brought forward. And if you're gonna look at this at all, I would start with the survey that was really successful there in Farmingdale. And I think that's the model for any sort of process we go forward with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
How are you? Steve Versace. I have 2 kids in the district. Retired New York City fireman, first responder, currently work in New York City commercial high-rise operations. I deal with fire, life safety, security on a daily basis, integrity testing, the drills. I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years. Before COVID, we would have 90 to 300 people on a floor do a fire drill twice a year. And people will come out, they go to the same building every day, enter the same way, and they forget where the stairs are. It's silly, but it happens.
Yeah, we have 8 fire drills here by law, minimum,
Right,
and 4 lockdowns minimum a year.
which is, I guess,
Practice, of course.
right? We do them all the time, and people get complacent. They don't pay attention. They're on their phone. They're talking to other teachers. Kids are talking to other kids. So it's just not questioning how you do things, but, like Joe said, like Joe and Joe both said, understanding the dynamics of it, not necessarily having somebody walking around in the school with a gun or outside the school with a gun, but I definitely think that it's a conversation that needs to be had. And, you probably do integrity testing, right? Where somebody comes and checks your threat assessments, right? Do you know when it's coming? Do security guards know when it's coming? Because I've seen it where my folks have leaked it to people, and it's not good, and it leaves you exposed. So it's just something, a further conversation. It's definitely something, I'm not pro against it or pro for it, but it's definitely something that I think even the studies, right? What's the threat assessment? Most of the studies that were happening, social media is getting worse and worse for these kids. It's a terrible time to be a kid, right? Snapchat, TikTok, what's going out there on social media at 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade kids, it's terrible. It's a tough time for these kids. And, they may hide it, they may mask it, but those are the kids that you have to worry about. And a lot of the times it's missed, and the worst thing to ever do is to have the Monday morning quarterback in and say, wow, we really could have done this. You know, it's just something to take into mind, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
comments.
Good evening, Perry Fuchs, President of Planning Federation of Teachers. Nice to see everyone tonight. Two things. First, I want to thank Ms. Maggio for coming to that rally. You know, I was there and I saw a lot of my colleagues. I saw pretty much almost every union president from across Long Island, 122, 23 districts, but I did not see very many board members, or at least I was not aware of very many board members were there. And I was so proud as our union leader to have our board member there advocating for this important change that we need to see in the governor's budget. And thankfully, I think because of bipartisan support on both sides, we're going to see a change, and that's going to positively affect children. So thank you, Ms. Manager. It was really great rallying with you and having you there because you're a leader in the community, and it was just great to see you there.
Thank you.
As far as the discussion this evening regarding guns and armed security guard, so I've been in the school district this is my 24th year in Plainedge. I can tell you personally that I've always felt relatively safe. The improvements that we've made regarding security, I think are state of the art. We have, like Dr. Singh alluded to, the one-button lockdown. We have the vestibules. We're doing everything we can to protect our children and, of course, the teachers here. I want everyone to know that the PFT has a significant interest in keeping both the students and the teachers as safe as possible, whatever that means. Now, I can tell you, because I do deal with a lot of complaints in my position, that some of those complaints have never been, ever, that I don't feel safe in the schools. At pretty much any point in my career as a union leader. I do deal with a lot of other complaints, but that is not one of them. And I think overall, the teachers in this district do feel safe and do feel that the district is doing everything that they can to protect them. If you're going to make the decision to bring in armed guards, I can say on behalf of the teachers, I want you to really, really, really do the research and look for unbiased research on no one that has any connections to any sort of thing that would weigh them either way, and see what does that data say. This is a very, very serious decision. And it's a decision that needs to be guided by data. What does the data say as far as what will make us safer and what will not make us safer? I urge you to do a significant amount of research beyond just how does the community feel, right? Because you can feel one way and it may make you safer, it maybe, but what does the data say? Because I don't really know, like Dr. Singh said, I'm not a security personnel. I certainly have feelings about this, but they're not important. What's important is the safety of the teachers and the students. And we need to let the data guide us on what will make children safe, what will make teachers safe, and not opinion, and not, well, I feel this way. What does the research say? If it will make us safer, the PFT is 100% behind it. If it cannot or it cannot be proven to make us safer, then I would ask the board, why are we going down this path? Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
I left.
No,
No.
just comments. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Mr. Paris, do I have a second? Ms. Townsend, all in favor? Opposed, abstaining. Have a great night.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Happy Easter, happy Passover. Happy Palm Sunday.